back from vacation. Whatever. Anyway, so it has been a long time, and I've been sorry for the hiatus, but I have been trying to get everything finished so I don't have to make every video last several weeks in production, so you guys have to wait several more weeks for that video. But hopefully it will be a little more consistent as time goes on.
And to start off the return, Bloodstained, Curse of the Moon, a prequel game for the Kickstarter game Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. For those who haven't heard of it, it's a game made by the creator of the Metroidvania-style Castlevania games, starting with Symphony of the Night. Funnily enough, while I love the Metroidvania-style action games, I have never played any of the Castlevania games like it. The reason why I backed Ritual of the Night was because of the genre, not exactly what it was based on. But with the backers getting a free version of the prequel, I was intrigued, but a little nervous. I played Castlevania 4 on the SNES, and I wasn't really a fan. Not to say it was a bad game, but I honestly wouldn't play it again. So when I got it in the email, I had some concerns. That changed, however, when I started up the game, though. Man, this starting screen is very nostalgic. It's like I'm playing an actual NES. But it's like Shovel Knight. It may look like an NES game, but it ain't running on an 80s console. Let's get the presentation out of the way, then. The game looks damn good for what it's trying to emulate, but really it looks way too similar to the NES Castlevania games to a point it's not really given it an identity. It's not a huge problem, mind you, since the characters do stand out enough, but if you told anyone that this was a Castlevania game, I think they would have believed you. The music is also very similar to Castlevania. In fact, this song in particular gave me a lot of Vampire Killer vibes. The music is amazing though. Some of my favorites were Blast Me Into Heaven, Son of the Night, the aforementioned Defiler of Taboos, and the boss theme. Also can't argue about the sound effects either. The crunches of axes, the swinging of flying weapons, the snapping of whips, as well as the artificial voice clips for the characters, where they actually sound like they're actually getting hurt. That's a good bit of detail for an 8-bit recreation. And I will say I love the gothic style of Bloodstained. I mean, gothic and Lovecraftian aesthetics have always interested me. And you can see it all in the enemy designs, with knight's armor, scissormen, love demons, sting chameleons, and women bathing in a tub of blood. Yep, this is certainly gothic. There was once a man who had been given the moon's curse by demons. That man was Zangetsu. Wrapped in crimson garb with eyes like fire, he relentlessly pursued the demons who cursed him. As he journeyed from one pit of darkness to another, he would stop at nothing until he struck down every last demon in his path. One night... Okay, screw this. Long story short, this is Zangetsu, he's a dick. This is Miriam, she's a babe. This is Alfred, he makes gold. And this is Gibble. He's the bad guy of the next game. We do not trust him. Kill demons and beat the game. That's basically all it amounts to, really. On that night, either the demons or the moon itself will feel the wrath of his blade. Well, ain't that edgy as shit. Well, anyway, let's get to the gameplay. If you've ever played any of the old-style Castlevanias, you'll know how this game works. But you'll also know all the bullshit that carried over. We'll talk about that in a moment, though. Let's talk technicals first with the 4 different characters. Zangetsu is generally the short-range fighter, but has the highest health of the group and has the fastest attacking speed. Miriam has some good range, but it takes a small amount of time to wind up her whip. She also has the highest jump as well as a slide. Makes sense that the main character for the main game would have the most abilities. Alfred is generally weak and has some shitty health, but does hold some of the best sub-weapons out of anyone, especially one-hit kill attacks like an icicle arrowhead of death. And then you have Jebel. Pretty slow with his weird rose-petaled shotgun move thing, but he is the only character that can attack upward without the use of sub-weapons, and with that, he only has one, the bat, which is really useful for platforming sections you want to cheese, or the parts where there's no platforming at all, but the downside is it eats magic like crazy, like a cookie addict to Oreos. Now let's talk the weapons and items. So yeah, Jebel can't use any sub-weapons outside of the bat, The only thing that he gets out of the purple flames that do contain sub-weapons for everyone else are large magic containers, which would be a good strategy if you're getting low on magic. Zangetsu has a diagonal whip for his base weapon, a magic black hole that goes downward, and a flame that increases attack. They're pretty situational and not really that fun to use. Other characters have these effects that do it better, except for the flame, that's actually pretty good. Miriam has a throwing knife for her default, but she can also get triple throwing knives for better coverage, an axe that is short range but kills in one hit. And the scythe, one of my favorites period. Basically a giant-ass boomerang, and who doesn't like a boomerang? Alfred's gimmick is strong spells. He has a fire shield, which attacks enemies, but actually doesn't really shield the character. The Death Ice Spear that I mentioned earlier. The copy, which sounds fun on paper, but it's kind of worthless because there's this no damage gap that makes the extra range meaningless. And the special spell, which is a homing ball of death, which works great for bosses, but targeting in the regular stages is practically impossible. As I stated earlier, you can switch between characters at any time, meaning you can also do stupid stuff like this. But that's why it's funny. But if you die with a character, you don't immediately lose a life. Instead, the character will be incapacitated for the remainder of the stage, or if everyone else dies, which will make you lose a life in the veteran mode. Also, any special effects will transfer over to the character you switch over, like the attack buff for Zangetsu or the fire shield for Alfred. It gives the game a nice bit of strategy, which is neat. What is not neat is the control scheme as a whole. Now to be fair, it is responsive to inputs, and the level design works according with it. But remember what I said about the bullshit that carried over from the classic Vanias? For one, you are completely dedicated to your jump arc. The moment you make a jump, you better hope the arc doesn't land you into a pit, which is easy to do in various situations. The game also has knockback, which was a problem in the classic NES games like Mega Man and such, but this is such a stupid thing to bring back. Nobody likes being knocked back, especially when there's a lot of bottomless pit nearby. Now this is exclusive to the veteran mode. Casual doesn't have this feature, nor does it have any lives to speak of. So if you hate the knockback, you can just change it when you lose all your lives, or just choose at the beginning as expected. But with the unlimited lives in casual mode, comes the fact that finding these score bags is kind of meaningless in this mode. Every 20,000 points gives you an extra life in veteran mode, but in casual, nothing happens, it's just bragging rights at that point. For some people it wouldn't matter, lives never really meant anything to begin with in console games, and that's kinda true, it's a needless carryover from the arcade games. But I like for everything to mean something, so I always stay with the veteran mode and live with the knockback even though some stages are horrible with limited lives. The one thing to note is the multiple endings. You can get the Nightmare mode by recruiting every character. It's basically a mode where you only have Miriam, Alfred, and Gebel after Zangetsu sacrificed himself in the normal mode, as well as the bosses getting a lot more aggressive with new attacks. Ultimate mode unlocks when you straight up stab every partner and absorb their power, meaning this would give Zangetsu a double jump, a dash, and a mid-air attack that does double damage. Which really thinking about it, that actually makes it a lot more Metroidvania than it really should be. Ultimate mode just gives you Zangetsu, but it's normal mode otherwise. With all that said, it certainly has a lot of replay value if you care about the modes. But other than that, I say the game is a one and done kind of game if you just want to play it from beginning to end. For me, I liked it enough to play it about 3 times, so it amounts to something. This isn't my kind of game to begin with, but it gets me pumped for Ritual of the Night. We still have no idea when it releases, but when it does, you know I'll give it some attention.
You know, I should probably play something a little more close to home. I was going to reveal the next retrospective here, but I think I'm just going to have you guys in suspense. Until then, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you guys next time.